I want to move into landlord-tenant issues. And I guess before we jump into that, I was going to ask Chris to give us a quick 101 because there's been a lot of moratoriums on evictions. There's a lot of poor drafting of laws. I'm sorry, I know this is going to be tough, Chris, but that have come out, orders that have been issued, and even conflicting orders that have been issued. So for San Diego and maybe even Southern California as a whole, give us the 3-minute breakdown of what it is that you can do as a landlord and what your rights are as a tenant.
Yeah, I mean, so to reiterate, yeah, it's very haphazard, it's very on the fly, and there's a lot of different sources that landlords need to refer to before kind of pursuing anything, especially depending upon where you are. So California, for instance, well, we can go high level. With California, Governor Newsom issued the order, I think about 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago now, yeah, almost a month. What is effectively an eviction moratorium. But what that really only did was prevent a landlord from enforcing any eviction order. So if you can still issue a 3-day notice if you're a landlord. Again, this is California as a whole. I'll narrow it down to local issues in a second. And it was really high level. It didn't do a lot. It essentially just bought tenants some time from getting kicked out of their house, 60 days. But then you have all local municipalities that have all created their own separate orders. So the city of San Diego, for instance, is pretty encompassing, whereas the state of California only applied to residential issues or residential tenancies. City of San Diego is commercial and residential, and it prevented landlords from taking, quote, any action to evict these tenants. So that includes issuing a 3-day notice to pay rent. So assuming that the tenants can comply with the requirements of these orders of proving that, one, providing notice to the landlord that they are affected by COVID, I can't pay rent, and 2, giving documents at a predetermined time evidencing that, then a landlord can't issue a 3-day notice and terminate the tenancy. They can't file an eviction.
So say that again. That's really important. So yeah. In San Diego, both a commercial and a residential tenant can stop a landlord from pursuing a foreclosure if they
eviction. Yeah.
Eviction. So I'm sorry. Yeah.
If prior to the time rent's due, you inform your landlord like, hey, I can't pay rent. That can be an email. That can be a text. It just needs to be a prior notice before the rent due date. If you do that, within 7 days of giving that information, you have to provide documents supporting that. So I'm impacted by COVID because I lost my job, or I had my salary cut in half. And you can provide bank statements or a payroll record or a note from your employer, for instance, that speaks to that. And then if you do that, the landlord is prohibited from, evicting you, issuing a 3-day notice, or taking action to evict you for non-payment of rent. They also can't pursue a no-fault eviction. So that's what I thought was kind of a way to avoid an end around by landlords. So, okay, you can't pay rent. Well, I'm doing substantial improvements or repairs to the property and taking it off the market. Therefore, you're evicted. That all can't happen now if the tenant provides notice and documents that falls within that category, and then you're within that statute.
How long is this moratorium effective?
So California and City of San Diego is till May 31st. But more importantly, from the other angle, is the Judicial Council of California. So you have municipalities, states issuing eviction moratoriums. And again, these are eviction moratoriums, not rent moratoriums. All this rent is still owed in San Diego, for instance, within 6 months. In California, at May 31st, the time this thing ends, unless your local thing says otherwise. But the courts, on the other hand, have stopped all evictions. So on the one hand, you can't pursue an eviction, you can't issue a 3-day notice, but courts have stopped issuing summonses and processing eviction paperwork or issuing default judgments if an eviction was already in place. So what you're going to have here is a huge buildup behind this dam which is the court. All this buildup on one side, that once those courts open and once those Judicial Council lifts their moratorium, which is 90 days after Governor Newsom lifts the emergency order, it's just going to be a flood of commercial residential tenant disputes, and which probably leads, I think Mark can speak to this a little better, but negotiating with your landlord and tenant now. I mean,
Well,
because you're in the middle of things for a long period of time without much recourse.
so the governor's order does not have any sort of restitution component to it at all. And then the local municipalities have different restitution orders that are kind of all over the place, but it is kind of a repeated pattern that as long as you repay the deferred rent during this period over the next 6 months, once the order is lifted, then, or within the 6 months following the lifting of the order, then you're in good standing. So there is a restitutionary, time frame, a cure period, if you will, for you to repay the rent.
Is it in government? Is that in the Newsom order? Is that 6 months?
No, there's not.
No.
No. I wasn't aware of it, but it's just kind of what people are doing then.
No, so the way that Newsom's order works is it's over and you got to pay it all back.
Right.
Yeah. Which brings us back to bankruptcy.